Hey friends, it's that time again. Kenny Jahng here with Exponential AI Next. We are here with this video series talking about what is the next step for AI in ministry, in the church world. All of our things that are happening right now just are going to be erased in the next year or two because there's such a velocity of innovation in terms of AI. And so for that purpose, I wanted to pull in good friend Jay Owen. Welcome, Jay. How you doing?
Great, Kenny. Thanks for having me on the show.
So let's first introduce you to the crowd that haven't actually followed up and seen your work. You work at the Church of 1122. Can you share a little bit about your daily responsibilities there as an executive director?
Sure. I get to help lead a bunch of teams there. Communications, digital, which is like web, apps, social, all those things. Online, so any online live streaming. Resources, which would include like book publishing, music publishing, and media. So all film, photography. I get to help lead all those teams, and it's a blast.
So AI is such a big focus for the marketplace today, and you have some experience in the marketplace side also. The contrast between what happens in ministry versus marketplace, can you just share a little bit of your perspective, what you're seeing? Because you actively work in the business world, but also work in the ministry world. How different of a contrast do you see in terms of people's posture, if any, towards AI today?
Yeah, it's interesting. I do get to wear a lot of hats, which is a real blessing because I get to see things maybe from a different perspective than some do. So my history is my whole life I've built a marketing agency since I was a kid. I still own that company. I have an awesome team there and a guy who really runs it day-to-day operations, been with me for almost 15 years. Company's been around for 25 years. And when I started working in ministry, and I mean like vocationally, I'm getting a paycheck from a church. I've been working in ministry my whole life, as many of us have, but actually getting a paycheck's different because there's a different level of responsibility and all those
Yes.
kind of things, And you have to actually have an actual job to do, versus just like I'll help when I can. And what I would hear a lot is people would say things to me like, Jay, you just don't understand. This is ministry, not business. But the interesting thing is in my business life, when I put that hat on, I'll hear the opposite. And people say, Jay, you don't understand. This is business, not ministry. And I'm like, no, you're all wrong. It's all ministry, first of all, whether it's in the church or outside the church. If you're a believer and you're doing all things to the glory of God, it is all ministry for his kingdom and his glory.
Amen, amen.
And yeah, I think that there is a little bit more pushback inside of the church, and not just at 1122, but just the church in general, big
Yes.
C church.
Yes.
And the fear, I think a lot of times, not just with AI, but even like operationally, how to run an organization, things like that. The fear is that it's somehow anti-people. And I'm always like, no, man, it's not anti-people. It's freeing people to do the things that only people
Yeah.
can do, which is face-to-face, in-person discipleship and ministry. Let the robots do everything else. So that's kind of my general perspective, and it's fun to have a little bit of a foot in both worlds because I just see things a little bit differently.
Awesome. So let's talk about AI because I think 1122 is one of those places where you actually see glimpses of how AI might be really supporting and empowering and turbocharging ministry work. Could you share maybe like one specific area of church operations and ministry that has been transformed by ministry? Like, give us an example of a task or a project or some approach where AI has actually either changed it, accelerated something significant and tangible that so people can grab and have some handles on how does AI work in the church and ministry?
Yeah, there's a bunch, but one of my favorite ones from this year was I've had people very often going, hey, could we have sermons in XYZ language?
Mm,
I live in Florida, so often that language that's requested is Spanish. It's very popular, especially in Central and South Florida. And it just was cost prohibitive for a very long time, and time prohibitive. It's like from the time you could get it, transcribed and get somebody else to translate it
yeah.
and redo the video and upload it. It's just too time consuming. And so we started using AI really towards the end, about this time last year, end of last year. And I was kind of just playing with it. I'm a curious like tech, let me just see what this button does kind of guy. And I built out kind of how it would work and then built a process for the team to do it. And now every single week, our sermons get released on Sundays. On Mondays, we release a fully Spanish translated version of the sermon on YouTube, but it's not just in Spanish. It's actually voice cloned so it sounds like Pastor Joby or whoever the preaching pastor is that particular week. And it's amazing because the stories that we'll then hear from people who have family members who only speak Spanish, they can now share these to them in their native language, and it changes everything. And the opportunity that creates discipleship wise, we would not have been able to do realistically within the budget and constraints that we had previously. And now because of AI, we can.
So in a church that I used to work in and pastor at, we had two people on Sunday mornings doing active live translations, right? And if you wanted to actually build that workflow on a regular basis and then ship it to YouTube and other places, it would be significant on the budget. Can you share with us, like, what is the impact? I mean, how many full-time employees have you hired for that? What's the cost of that, lighting that? Because I think the average church is not like 1122, right? They don't have thousands of people coming every day and have larger teams. Could you share just a little bit of like what type of resources are you investing in order to accomplish that at your level?
Yeah, I mean, the beauty of it is that the costs are very low and only going to decrease over time. So our total cost is about $50 a week right now on AI for
What?
translation services. Yeah, and then we have, I think internally it's either a serve staff member or a contractor at this point who is doing the actual work to get it translated or transcribed, translated, and uploaded, and they spend less than an hour on that every single week. This could potentially be almost a full part-time job for somebody, or maybe even a full-time job at some points. And now it literally takes about an hour a week to get it all done, and less than $100, about
I mean,
50, $60.
basically, what I'm hearing is you're saying that almost every single church that's listening and watching today, there's no excuse. If you actually have a population in your geographies, in your zip codes that are speaking another language, I know that in my area in New Jersey, I was just consulting with a church, something like almost 30% of the area is Spanish language families. And so it's a no-brainer to invest in something like that. But you're telling me, look, it's an hour a week, and that it's less than a part-time job. It's probably something that, again, a volunteer could be trained to do, right?
100%. Yes. And originally what I did is I just got together some staff members who spoke Spanish to kind of preview and test it all. So we'll make sure like what we're actually putting out there is legitimate and not poorly translated or something else. And they all were just blown away. I mean, some people moved to tears over it. And so the beauty of this technology is that it does allow churches of all sizes to make impacts in ways that they could never have done previously, just based on time and money alone.
What's interesting, Jay, is that I was talking with one of the translation AI companies, Kudo.ai is one of them. And what they were finding also, Jay, was I found very interesting is that we look at these translation services as a way to bridge to another language, but they're finding that a lot of churches are using it to use it for English transcription, basically. So basically, basic captions and titles in real time for accessibility. So as the population is aging in many areas, to have a mobile phone that has live translation in English, if you're an English-speaking congregation, is actually helping people. And I thought like that is just an amazing use of AI technology that's live in the room. And it's something that makes the gospel much more accessible to a wider audience. I think like it's just fascinating, right?
Yeah, we've talked about this a little bit, actually. We have a new campus that's being built right now that is in a community where there's a lot of the Florida School for the Deaf and Blind is there. And so there's a lot of folks who have accessibility needs. And all of a sudden, these kind of capabilities will allow us to do some of this stuff. We're not actively doing that kind of live captioning outside of whatever YouTube does automatically online. But what you're talking about is a little bit more advanced in the room, those kind of things on live streams. And the tech's out there to make that happen now at a very affordable, very easy to do process. And it's exciting.
Yeah, it's kind of incredible. I know I've walked a couple churches through just getting like Kudo will set you up for free and let you test it for a month, et cetera. And just churches are consistently surprised at how easy it is and then how low cost it is. We are going into another chapter of AI. So we started with ChatGPT and Claude and Gemini, and we are using these tools on a daily basis now. We're seeing Voice come of age. ChatGPT just announced 1-800-ChatGPT, so you
Yeah.
don't even need an account or anything like that. It's accessible. In fact, I used to use advanced voice mode on my app in the car and just have conversations, and now I just have it on speed dial because it's so much easier. The next chapter is not just interaction one-on-one, but agents or creating apps and doing other things outside of just the one little task in front of us. How has your church started to look at or experiment of using AI to create software that just is so much easier today than it was even just a couple of years ago?
Yeah, the thing that's really blown me away over the last 3 months, I mean, I feel like a kid in a candy store. I told my wife, I said, I've not been this excited about technology since I was like, I don't know, 17, 18 years old, and I was starting my business for the first time. And I really feel like that again. Like it's so exciting. I'll find myself looking at the clock and going, it's 2 o'clock in the morning, and I'm still like
Yeah.
hooked on this thing, trying to build a thing. And it's the agents, exactly what you're talking about. So the good way for people to think about an AI agent is it's kind of like a team member. Now, I'm not saying they're the same thing as people, they're not, but they can certainly accomplish tasks that otherwise would have required a team and a budget that's unreasonable. I think about it this way, actually. Years ago, at my agency, we used to do a lot of software development. We do a little bit less now than we used to. And I worked with team members all over the world. And sometimes I got pushback because people were like, oh, I can't believe you would outsource work instead of hiring an American. And I'm like, well, here's the thing. A lot of the people that we're working with can't afford what it would cost for me to pay a full-time developer. So it just means they just wouldn't get their app. So because I can work with people all over the world, now it becomes more accessible. Well, now we've reached a new level of that. I have been working on building a kind of a team health management system that I plan to use and test on my teams at the church and then also at my agency because it'll work in both ministry and business contexts. And the crazy thing about it is the whole app, database, code, programming, design, layout, structure, mobile version, desktop version has all been built without me writing a single line of code. Now I know enough
Incredible.
about this stuff to like kind of know a little bit, but I don't know enough to write an app from scratch. But now I can, and literally I have multiple functioning applications at this point. Um, for one little one that I published the other day, just kind of playing around. It's called kracreator.com, and it's a free tool. All it does is help you build a better role description for a team member. This can work inside of ministry, outside of ministry. It works for anybody where you've got a team and you want to hold them accountable. Well, what it does is it allows you to plug in a few details about a team member, and it builds out using an API connection to OpenAI, a custom, high quality KRA or key result area document for a team member. What I'm now building is an even more robust version of that. Well, I launched that entire app um, without writing any code and without setting up a database or without setting up a server. Anybody with very little technical ability can do these things now, and it's only going to get better. Like the version that we're using now, sometimes I'll get frustrated with something not working the way that I want. And then I'm just remind myself, if I just wait like a week, it'll probably like be all fixed. Where before, like historically, if you wanted software to get better, it was like you had to wait a year, like for Apple to roll out their new software the following summer or something. And now it's like, well, next week it'll probably be better. And that's just wild.
Yeah, and that is a realistic point of view, right? Like the number of iterations that we are seeing in the AI world is crazy. When I used to be a partner in a venture catalyst, like an incubator for dot-com companies, we used to measure innovation in dog years. So in a single calendar year, we would say, oh, there's 7 leapfrogs within
Hmm.
a 7 calendar year, and it seems like it's even faster today, right?
It's much faster.
Yeah. And so, what tools are you using? Are you using ChatGPT? Are you using Claude? Are you using Replit? What are the no code apps that you're using to build these things?
Yeah, so I started playing with Claude originally and asking it to like, I don't remember what the first thing was, some kind of little calculator I wanted to build, something that would have taken a long time. Actually, no, I remember now. One of the very first things I did was actually, I want to say it was last Christmas or the one before that. So it was early in the Chat GPT days, but I thought, I wonder if I can get this thing to write a little app for me. And I built a custom invite tool which did require a little bit more heavy lifting, to be fair, back then. You had to kind of know what to do and then know what to do with the file. But even still, I wrote none of the code. And it built a custom invite tool that let me pick a campus, pick a time, write a friend's phone number, and then it would automatically text that person an invite to the service that was pre-written. And I thought this is something really cool. But now there's these new tools. There's a couple that I love right now, although it changes day by day. One of them is called lovable.dev, really cool tool. Another one's called
Yeah.
bolt.new. So instead of the .com, it's .new for people to listen out there. Some of these little new domains are a little hard to get a grasp of. But both of those tools are completely no code. So literally you just type in a prompt like you would ChatGPT. I want to build an app that, fill in the blank. And let's say, for example, it needs to do something like connect to ChatGPT or OpenAI's API. A lot of people are like, I don't even know what an API is. Here's the good news. You don't even need to know. It just tells you. And then when you're not sure, you just say, I'm not sure how to get what you're asking. It'll be like, well, here's how you do it. Step one, step two, step three. Follow the steps. All of a sudden, you've got an app that's connected behind the scenes to Claude or to OpenAI using those tools, because that's the real thing. Like, people think that Claude or OpenAI, ChatGPT are just these chat tools. That's really just the surface. The real mega power in the future of these things and where they're going to make all their money are in API connections. Behind the scenes, I can build a custom app to send data out to do particular things. So for example, in this team app that I'm building, which I used, I actually built two different versions, one with bolt.new and one with lovable.dev, because I like to A/B test stuff. It has a tool in there to do one-on-ones with team members because people struggle with how to do a good one-on-one. Well, one of the things that it does is you can put in the person's personality profile. So depending on what you use on Teams, whether it's Working Genius or Enneagram or DISC or any of these types of things, and then based on that information, it'll then connect to OpenAI and give me a description of how to communicate better with this team member while I'm having that one-on-one. That just wasn't possible, a couple of years ago without a ton of work behind the scenes. And now I'm doing it, with my laptop, giving it a few prompts in a couple hours.
Yeah, I love also Lovable is lovable.dev, I think is the actual URL.
Yeah, it is.
Um, Surfaces some of the projects publicly that other people have actually built, and so you can actually click through and just get a taste of what can you build without knowing how to code. I know maybe you and I should be texting each other at 2 in the morning in bed, because I was up at 2 in the morning recently with ChatGPT, just basic ChatGPT plus, and there's a tool that we subscribe to. It's called Add Event. It's $99 a month, and it's one of those things that when you have an event, there's a little button that says Add it to my calendar, add it to Google, to Outlook, etc. And I was like, I wonder if I could replicate that and remove the $99 from our credit card every month. And sure enough, before 2:30 a.m., I had a working version. And then I was even able to iterate and say, hey, I need a preview version to make sure. I want to change the color of the button. So give me a color picker that I could click, choose any color I want, and then it changes the color of the button. And now that $99 fee is totally gone. So the future, the future for churches that are investing in learning how to do this stuff. What do you think the future is? What about all these apps that we pay for, subscribe to, that larger churches have in their budget, smaller churches don't? I have a friend that actually coded a full giving app, was able to hook it up to Stripe, and then was able to take credit cards and checks online in an app that he created in less than 2 hours, I think. What do you think the future is about all these SaaS products and companies that we are subscribing to as churches? Are they going to go away? Or is it just, are larger churches or the future forward, the ones that have the future posture, are they going to have access to just many more solutions that are custom for themselves at a lower cost? What's the future there?
Yeah, I think realistically, a couple things are going to happen. One, it will drastically drive costs down in the software business.
Yeah.
Mainly, first of all, because their costs will be lower. It will be cheaper for other companies to develop software.
Yeah.
I don't think that most people are going to be out here doing what me and you are doing,
Yeah.
staying up till 2 in the morning, building out custom apps. I did the same thing the other day. Actually, it's live right now. You go to easymapbuilder.com. It's not, there's no paid thing. It's just a cheap little tool that I built because we were paying a ton of money for this mapping software that connects to Google's API, which you pay for. And I built this new one in like an hour. Maybe it was 2 hours, if I'm being fair. And it does everything I wanted it to do. But I think the future is the costs are going to come way down and accessibility is going to go way up. And we're going to be able to have these custom solutions that do very specific things without needing to spend, unreasonable amounts of money on it. I mean, I know that with a lot of our testing, some of the things I'm building right now are ideas that I've had for a very long time, but
Yes.
I just haven't been willing to take the risk, you know, and it's like I know it's going to cost me months of time and tens of thousands of dollars to get to where I really want to go. And now all of a sudden I can get there in 50 bucks and a late night with a strong cup of coffee, you know. But I think that the key to the future of all teams, churches, ministries, nonprofits, businesses, is you need somebody on your team or near your team, so that is curious about this stuff.
Yeah.
It's that's not everybody I've learned. Some people are like, I don't really care or care to know, and that's okay. Everybody's got their own gifts, but you need somebody who's like, hey, check this thing out. How cool is this? If you don't have that person, if that person is not you, you need to get somebody around you. And it could be a volunteer, it could be a serve staff member, because I promise you, regardless of the size of the church, there's somebody who's curious about this stuff. And it's the future of these things will go to the curious and to the people who are, I think the next decade in the tech land is an incredible opportunity for the jack of all trades.
Yeah.
Then that's kind of me. Like I'm a generalist. I'm not a developer. I'm not a designer. But I know enough to be dangerous in all those areas. And now all of a sudden with these AI tools, I've got like a full team of robots who can help me create these things. And then as a result of that, I'm removing all these extra busy work and potentially saving some money on apps that we're already paying for. But I think most people will still they would still prefer to buy a proven, trusted app rather than try to go build their own thing. Because maintaining an app and hosting it is a whole nother ball game, you know, that people don't really want to get wrapped up in that much. But I think the cost will come way down and the options will massively increase over time too.
What's one surprising lesson that you might have learned as you see the staff and other team members around you adopt AI? Like, is there anything specific that like you didn't expect, but it's reshaping how you think about the approaches of applying AI to ministry?
What I have seen is that people just need to see what's possible. A lot of AI, I think, over the last year or two has been like, I don't know, kind of random, fun, interesting things
Yeah.
that aren't actually
Novelty.
yeah, they're not that practical. But when you can actually be like, yeah, but look how we could use this to run a thing. Just this morning, I sent our HR team a video that I had created using an app, and we have this annual review process, which most people do, to kind of go, hey, how's our team doing this year? Where are areas we need to improve in? All these kind of things. And it's a big PDF that they sent of all these instructions. I literally took that PDF, dumped it into an app. I don't remember the specific one. It's called like Cynthia. You've probably seen it before. It's like a synthesis video system. I forget exactly what it's
Synthesia.
called. That's right. See, you know these things. And it built I don't know, like a 2 minute overview video, talking head. And you can tell it's not quite real, but give it a few more months and you won't be able to tell. But the quality of the presentation and even the alignment from our brand, it just went out to our website, pulled in the colors, pulled in the fonts, all those things. It was usable. Like it was a product that I would be comfortable internally sending out to the team going, hey, if you just want a quick video overview, here you go. To produce a talking head like video like that would take many hours, and to do it well would take many, many dollars. And now all of a sudden I did it by uploading a PDF that was already created. And so what surprises me in a positive way is when people see the practicality, they go, oh, how can I do that? And so one of the things that I'm working on is a workshop internally for our team, because it can't just be me that's curious about these things, and it's not. There's plenty of other people that are too, but we need a system and a plan internally of how we can actually be productive and create value and ultimately accomplish the mission of the church.
So, as a leader that has needs over time for HR, you're going to be hiring new people to fill different seats, et cetera. And you are definitely AI conversant. How important is it for future candidates of someone that's going to come onto the staff to show that they have either appreciation, agility, some experience, or openness to AI? Like, is that going to be one of the markers you're going to see in terms of resumes or interviews to check out like what is their possibilities on the AI front?
For sure. I ask the question almost all the time, hey, do you use any AI tools? And people are like, yeah, some. I'm like, "Oh, what are those and how do you use them?" And I had a guy, I was at an event on the business side probably a year or two ago now, and we were sitting around a fire pit at the end of the night, and he was like, we were telling stories, and He's like, yeah, I had somebody apply for a copy role, and we realized that they were using ChatGPT to help, and so we immediately, discarded their resume. And I said, well, why don't you send it to me? And he's like, what? I was like, yeah, I'll hire them. And he thought I was joking. And I was kind of joking because I wasn't looking to hire a copywriter. But I was like, bro, I want somebody who's doing this stuff, who's learning to figure these things out, figure out how to optimize what we're doing. And I think there's a risk and a danger in the creative space, which is always true. When Canva first came out, all the design enthusiasts turned their nose up to it because they're like, yeah, but it's not Photoshop or Illustrator or whatever. And but the funny thing is, artists did the same thing when Photoshop and Illustrator were created many, many, many years ago. And so now that same thing is happening on the copywriting side. It'll happen on the development side. Creatives get uncomfortable. And I get it because their expertise has been built around a particular skill set that now potentially is being taken over by robots. People have been saying for a while, well, AI just can't write like a person. That's not true. And so I'm constantly looking for team members who are leveraging this stuff, and I'm encouraging them to show it off at our weekly team meetings, both in business world and in the church. I want to see. We've got an AI Slack channel that people just show off. Hey, here's a new tool that I found. Here's how I'm using it. And I want to see what people are doing, and I want to encourage that behavior because it's good for everybody, in my opinion.
Do you think there are any departments, ministry fronts, teams specifically where AI is going to be a necessity of understanding how to use versus, and then the other question would be, are there places where it's not as important, like you don't really need it? So in 3 years and 5 years from now, where would you not, you definitely would not hire the person who's qualified on resume and experience, et cetera, but they don't have that capacity to actually embrace AI. Where's the sweet spot for AI right now on your teams?
Yeah, I mean, any of my communication teams, they need to know how to leverage AI appropriately, just because it just speeds not just time to delivery, but quality as well. We constantly were dealing with, we produce so much written content, and we were constantly dealing with copy edits and errors and all this, even when we run it through multiple people, and something gets published, especially when things get printed. Well, that almost never happens anymore because we leverage AI to get it right. And while it used to mess that stuff up sometimes, it doesn't anymore when you use it appropriately. So anybody on the comm communication side, I think has got to know how to do this stuff. I would argue that any position that I hire in any role or world in the future, I want to know that either they're currently actively using AI, which is what I would expect a year or two from now, or at least they're open to it and curious. If their response is, yeah, I never want to use any of that stuff, I'm totally opposed to it, I'm probably not hiring that person.
Yeah. And then are there areas in the church, not in the comms area, but are there any roles where it's okay not to use AI? Can you think of that? Because I'm challenged with that all the time. And one of the things that pastors always say is like pastoral care, counselors and therapists cannot use AI. And I actually say it's probably not, it's probably the opposite. You want to be able to role play. You want to be able to research. Not every counselor is adept in every single thing that gets presented by someone, someone who comes to them. So you want to be able to come up to speed on things. What are the roles, if any? I'm trying to rack my brain right now because this is a question that I get all the time where they want to protect it, right? Even so, preaching is another one. You cannot use AI in writing your manuscript. The Holy Spirit is going to be blocked out, etc. That's obviously. I can predict your answer on that one, right? That's a invalid one too.
Yeah, I mean, I would say, in the future, no. I mean, everybody, anybody here's the way I would say it. Anybody who's not using some form of AI to help support their role is going to fall behind. And they're just going to be spending more time doing things than they should be doing, and all of a sudden they're going to be more burnt out because they're spending so much time on stuff. The first instinct in my head was some kind of like in-person discipleship role. But even that, I would say they still got to send emails out.
Yeah.
They've still got to probably update something, social content, or even provide discipleship resources to people. And I don't think that AI should just be out there writing sermons that you deliver. But I also don't think you should plagiarize sermons. And I've seen people do plenty of that too. Now, that said, I think it's perfectly fine to take a story from somewhere that you have the permission to use and go, hey, I heard this story one time. I think it'll be helpful here. No problem. And it's like, Okay, well, you can't use AI to help with a sermon. All right, well, can you use Google? Can you, because that's AI, and arguably, well, can you use logo software? Can you read somebody's commentary from the
Yeah.
past? Because that's not the Bible. And because I could make a case that many Christians spend too much time reading other things than the Bible
Yeah.
to inform their decisions when they should just read the Bible, you know? So it's like, are there dangers? Of course. There's dangers to everything. And there's always a shadow. And so the question is, what are those shadows? And we should pay attention to them.
What's the risk going to be for a church that does not embrace AI? Because the pastors set the culture and everything top down is disproportionate from the top of the leadership, right? So in 5 years from now, in 10 years from now, if and there will be pastors who refuse to
Sure.
adopt AI, what is the consequences for that church? I would say on the web side, it's akin to someone who does not have a church website in today's world, right? If you're not willing to adopt and have a church website, or you're not communicating via email,
Sure.
then there's a serious consequence. What would be that parallel analog scenario for a church that is not embracing AI in 5 years from now? 5 years is a long time from now too.
It is. Yeah, it's hard to predict what that's going to look like. But what I would say is a couple of things. One, I don't think, I know God uses all kinds of peoples, all kind of styles, all kind of ministries, and he will use many ministries who don't use technology at all.
Yeah.
And that's fine. I think that they, in many of those situations, will reach less people, but sometimes one more is enough, you know? I also think that the folks who refuse to adopt it will just be spending more time doing things, you know? You can put together IKEA furniture without a drill, and it is painful. Or you can use a drill and it's a little bit faster, you know? And so you can dig a ditch with a shovel, or you can rent a backhoe and it's a lot faster. So some people are like, we only want to use a shovel. No problem. Dig away. That's just not going to be me. But do I think that they will still have impact for the kingdom? Sure. I just personally, from my world and the ministries I get to have opportunity in, one of the things that God has given me is curiosity in technology. And I think that I would be a poor steward of the energy, efforts, talents, and abilities that He has given me if I'm not going, how can I use these things to help more people discover and deepen a relationship with Jesus Christ? And do I want to just mail it in? No, of course not. But do I want to find ways to multiply content and create reach and connect with people that I couldn't otherwise reach? Yeah. It's the same thing with online streaming. You know how many churches refused to do online streaming? And then what happened? COVID. And we can't gather together. And now we've neglected, because that is the right word, we've neglected the opportunity to reach people online. And I get it. Look, we've had plenty of debates about what is the ecclesia and what is
Yeah.
church and what isn't church and all these kind of things. And that's a whole nother, conversation. I'm into it. That said, if I can reach somebody because they can watch on a live stream in some random country anywhere in the world, I would like to do that. And if I can do it in their own language, I'm into that too. So that's kind of how I think about it. And I would also say there's going to be some people who just feel compelled not to do those things, and there's a good chance they'll reach people that I won't, and that's okay too. At the end of the day, God's going to use all kind of people, all kind of ministries to accomplish His mission, and He just allows us to be a part of it.
That's I love that encouraging word, and it's just so centered. Um, as we close out the conversation here, where are you looking to for learning about AI? Are there any specific sources that you're seeing that's very efficient to get up to speed? What are you using to learn outside of just trying new tools every day?
Yeah, I'm a tool junkie for sure. I don't know if that's an appropriate word to use in a church context, but I definitely like have way too many trial accounts set up, and occasionally get a list from the accounting department going, "Hey, do we still need to pay for these things?" I'm like, "Sorry about that. We should cancel that." But the place that I really am enjoying the most, and there's plenty of shadows to this place too, is X, or formerly the artist formerly known as Twitter, mainly because of the speed to delivery across all those platforms. I can follow all the big names out
Yeah.
there, and one of the first places that they're going to share new information is there. And then I can engage with other people, learn from other people, develop community. So I found that to be the most current actionable place for me to learn about new things. And I'll be talking about some tool like bolt.new, for example, and somebody will go, oh, but have you tried lovable.dev? And I'm like, no, but now I will in the next 10 minutes, you know? So I've learned a lot on X over the last 6 to 12 months as it relates to AI.
Gotcha. And so, and I think that's a positive use of social, right? Like that's just one of the things of how do you aggregate. Seth Godin, I just reminded me of Seth Godin, who talks about the value of the internet in itself is just aggregating like-minded people across geographies in a much efficient way than you would in person. So if someone hasn't embraced AI yet, or they're just starting the journey, and they are a leader in a position that is managing and overseeing teams of staff or volunteers, can you just leave us with 3 very practical next steps? Like in the next 90 days, if they're going to put stuff on their calendar of what to do in order to get themselves acclimated with AI and also influence their staff, what are 3 things that you would recommend if you're mentoring somebody? What would you say to them? What are 3 must do things for them to get up to speed?
Well, one is I think they need to get around other people who are thinking about and talking about these things. I mean, the fact that they're listening or watching this is probably a good sign that they're moving in that direction. So that's good. I know you've got an incredible
Yeah.
Facebook group with, I
Yep.
mean, I don't know how many thousands of people in there now talking about these things. Those kinds of things are a good place. I've got some resources on a website, aiwithj.com, they can download. And so really it's about getting in community, download some resources. So that's one option, aiwithj.com. And then the third, I would say is be curious and go experiment with some stuff. If you've never used ChatGPT, just go try it. Talk to it like it's a person. One of the analogies I'll use is the old Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, you know, with Regis Philbin back in the day. You'd phone a friend. So you got a question about history, and you know that Susie knows a lot about history. So you're going to call Susie and go, Susie, I need some help with this question. That's a good way to think about some of these natural language conversations. Is it's your friend. I mean, that's a stretch, but you know what I'm saying. Who knows everything about everything? And does it get stuff wrong occasionally? Yeah, but it's getting way better all the time. And so I join community. I get access to some key resources of information being shared, and then I would go be curious and just try some stuff.
Awesome. Let's close out the session with a lightning round of questions. Just some fun stuff if you're open to it. It's just a couple of questions. So the first one, Jay, is what is your favorite chatbot of the moment?
Claude, best
Claude.
writer, best coder.
Okay. And the second one is what's the latest trial account that you've set up on an AI app?
Oh, that's a great question. There's one that I just set up, and I can't even remember what the name of it is. Let me see.
What
if
a
I can find
familiar
it.
experience, right? We
know.
something caught your eye, you started using it, and you don't.
Yeah, there's one that I've just downloaded. It might not be the most latest, but it's close. It's called Windsurf. It's a coding app by a company called Codium. Very cool tool. So Windsurf is probably the latest tool.
Okay, next one is what's the one approach of using AI that you think pastors are missing out on the most right now?
Approach. I would just say like multiplying existing content. So everybody is producing a sermon every single week. There's all kind of tools for this, like sermon shots or church.tech. But also you could just have a transcript, which AI can also produce, and you can just upload that transcript into Claude or ChatGPT and ask it to help you produce additional materials, even just key follow-up questions. It could be good social content or even discipleship group material, small group material. And I'm not saying just mail it in, but use your sermon transcript to multiply content. That's a huge missed opportunity versus having to create a ton of extra custom content. You've already got a sermon every week that's somewhere between 20 and 60 minutes. So use that content as a good starting point and let AI help you multiply using that content as the source.
I love it. We just launched repurposeyoursermon.com, which is a course that I think teaches you how to do, I think it's 11, if not 12 different ways to take your long form and repurpose in different ways.
That's
okay,
it.
Last question, Jay. We know that the intelligence of the machines are increasing every single day, if not every hour. We are going toward the singularity, artificial general intelligence, artificial superintelligence. What year do you think that AGI will happen? We heard Sam Altman say it's going to happen in the next 18 to 24 months, or if not next year. We have some other experts saying it's 5 years, 10 years. How quickly, what year do you think we're going to actually witness when the machine is smarter than humans?
I think it's already smarter than most humans, if I'm being completely honest. Especially I mean, literally this morning, ChatGPT demoed, as of the recording of this anyway, their latest model
Yes.
that seems wildly impressive. So it depends on who you ask for a definition of AGI, but I
Right.
would say this time next year, I think 12 months from now, we're in a place where the robots are as smart as any individual human and probably smarter than most collective humans. And there's some risks to that, but I also think there's incredible upside. And so I can't stop the train that's already in motion, but I can ask the question, how can I use this for good? And
Yes.
ultimately, how can I use this to glorify God?
That's a good word. If someone was watching to our conversation this today, they want to learn more about Jay Owen and what you're doing. Where can people follow you? What are your digits? How do they get in touch with you? What's the best way to do that?
Yeah, I'm on all the social platforms. Just search for Jay Owen, Jayowen, and you will generally find me on LinkedIn or Instagram or Facebook or any other places too. But if you want to just download my latest resource and get connected little more what I'm thinking about AI, I'm building a list right now. You can go to AI with J, that's Jay, AIwithJ.com.
Yeah, I love it. You got tools, you got some stuff for prompting. That's just a good resource that I dole out to people all the time. Thank you so much for joining us, Jay, and sharing a little bit of what you're doing on the ministry side behind the curtain. We'll have to have you back sometime soon. For those of you that have been watching here, we would love to know what resonated with you the most. If you would just email me at kenny@churchtechtoday.com and let me know. And give us some feedback and also suggestions for what should the next conversation center around. We want to know what should we actually pull the trigger on to go deeper into the conversation with Jay and other people that we would curate for you, because we are trying to democratize AI for ministry so that you can do more with AI for impact for the gospel. I'm Kenny Jahng. Thank you so much for watching. We'll check you out here in the next video.